Thank you. And good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 374th meeting of the BRTB. This meeting is being recorded. If anyone experiences any difficulties, please send a message in the chat box. And members, please turn your cameras on during the roll call for attendance as well as for voting. I'll now ask for Todd to start the roll call to determine member participation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll start very quickly. Annapolis, Anne Arundel County, Anne Arundel County.
Present.
Thank you. Baltimore City, Baltimore County,
Present.
Carroll County,
Present.
Harford County,
Present.
Howard County,
Present.
Queen Anne's County,
Present.
MDOT,
Present.
RTA of Central Maryland, MDOT MTA,
Present.
Maryland Department of Environment,
Present.
Maryland Department of Planning.
It's here. Good morning.
Thank you. And the Federal Highway Administration.
Present.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. We can turn it back to you for approval of minutes.
Great. Our first item is the approval of minutes from both the March and April BRTB meetings. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? Not hearing anything, can I have a motion and a second to approve these minutes?
Anne Arundel County motions to approve. Harford County seconds.
Are there any edits from the members? Hearing none, we'll now vote on the approval of the minutes. When your name is read, please indicate yay or nay.
Anne Arundel County,
Yay.
Baltimore County,
Yay.
Carroll County,
Yay.
Harford County,
Yay.
Howard County,
Yay.
Queen Anne's County,
Yay.
MDOT,
Yay.
and RTA of Central Maryland. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Great. The minutes have been approved. Next, we're going to move on to our public participation opportunity, where we offer the public a chance to speak to the board. If anyone has any comments on any action items, please wait for the item to be discussed. If there is anyone who wishes to address the board at this time, please indicate so in the chat box.
Mr. Chair, there was no one requesting to speak prior to the meeting, and currently there is no member of the public requesting to speak in the chat box.
Okay. Now we'll move on and we'll ask for the report on public involvement activity from Monica.
Good morning. So today I've got the public involvement report for you, and just wanted to remind folks, next slide, that we've recently launched our engagement hub at yourregionyourvoice.org. It's the same engagement hub, but we've rebranded it to a friendlier name. So it's yourregionyourvoice.org, and that's the QR code if you want to scan that. Go ahead. So in April, we've had over 3,500 folks visit the website, the Public Engagement Hub, and we had 53 people participate, share over 100 comments. We had over 45 people subscribe to our mailing list. We sent out over 7,000 emails, and we had a 35% open rate for the month of April. Next slide. And what we're promoting right now is our transportation improvement program, which is the short range transportation plan. That website for that is yourregionyourvoice.org/BRTB-tip. Comments are open for that through June 15th. Next slide. And what this is a $6.2 billion transportation plan. The money for that comes from federal, state, and local and toll funds. There's 172 different projects in 10 different categories. This includes bridge projects, transit-oriented development. We've got bicycle and pedestrian related projects, different things like that. Expanding trail networks, that sort of thing. So what we're looking for is to find out what folks think about the draft plan, and for folks to share their thoughts again by June 15th at yourregionyourvoice.org/BRTB-tip. Next slide. We are also looking for folks to join our Transportation Corps. These are virtual volunteers who would provide feedback on regional transportation planning through online surveys and virtual meetings. We just had a meeting of the group last week. And we currently have a good number of folks from Baltimore City and Baltimore County, but we are looking for people from Annapolis, Anne Arundel, Carroll, Hartford, Howard, and Queen Anne's County. So the application is there available at yourregionyourvoice.org/core app, COREAPP. Next slide. We had a really great Bike to Work week. It was a success. We had over 30 events throughout the region, and it was celebrated throughout the week. Staff of BMC were participating at a number of events throughout the region with folks, and we were really excited to help promote biking as an alternative way, an eco-friendly and healthy way to get around the region. So it was great to partner with everyone around the region. We're really excited for another successful Bike to Work Week event. So we've been out and about connecting with folks ongoing in the community. We've been at different boards and professional meetings, commission meetings. These are some of the commission meetings we've been to, such as the commissions on disabilities, Commission for Women, Multimodal Transportation Board, different transit commissions, that sort of thing. Next slide. We've also been connecting in the community at different community events. We were at the health fair at the Owings Mills Library, which is great. Talked to some folks. Howard County Green Fest, Towson Gardens Day, and we also have been at a number of different libraries in the community talking to folks. If you've got outreach planned for the summer and know some places that we should be at, please let us know. And again, this is ways for people to get involved. You can go to our engagement hub at yourregionyourvoice.org. You can subscribe to our mailing list, take a short survey. Again, currently we have the TIP, the short range plan, open for comment. And you're always welcome to join us at meetings like these. And that's all I have for this month. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Not a question, but just a quick note that I was actually biking through Baltimore on my way to a meeting at BMC during Bike Week, and several people under a tent started yelling at me to come over for Bike to Work Week, and it was folks from BMC, so they were definitely out there corralling people. So thank you for that.
That's great.
Great. Thanks, Monica. Now we're going to ask for a report, the May report from our technical committee from Dan.
Hello, good morning. Of course, the technical committee met on May 6, 2025. 5 proposed amendments to the 2025 TIP for MTA were introduced, and approvals for moving those to the board were had. Of note, the Francis Scott Key Bridge Transit Incentives Project, MDOT's project, recently announced a pilot program. Due to the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse, the program will offer short-term cost sharing incentives to employers who participate in transit pass subsidization. Information has been sent to the technical committee members. We also had appointed a nominating committee for technical committee officers. The committee is comprised of Anne Arundel and Queen Anne's County, along with MDOT, and was announced we have announced to develop a slate of officers for the technical committee for FY 2026. The slate will be presented at the June meeting with elections in July. We did have a closed session for RFP discussion as well. BMC staff presented information about tasks and deliverables for the 2026 tasks, crash data analytics and telematics review, and the PRG. Henryton Road Bridge Spur. Both tasks were approved and finalized for release to the RFPs. Just remind you that MDOT does offer a variety of commuter incentives to encourage alternative transportation options to alleviate traffic congestion. And these incentives include tax credits for employers, rewards for commuters using alternative modes of transportation, and resources to help commuters find the best commuting options for them and for the employers. The next technical committee meeting will be virtual, will be June 3rd next week, followed by the congestion management committee. And that's my report. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Dan. We now ask for a report from the May meeting of the Interagency Consultation Group from Anna.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. So the ICG, we met virtually on May 14th, and this meeting was to discuss the regional emissions analysis for the 2026 to 2029 air quality conformity determination report that is currently out in with the tip. And these results were approved, and they show that the region is measuring below the approved emission budgets for both NOx and VOC emissions, which are the precursors for ozone. And ozone is where the Baltimore region is in non-attainment zone for ozone. And so we have to demonstrate these emissions are measuring below the approved budgets, and they are for this year. So this is excellent news for our region to demonstrate attainment. And apart from that, we went over the 5 tip amendments that are on the agenda for today, and they are all exempt from the conformity requirements. And the next ICG meeting will be on July 1st in person as the joint meeting with the technical committee. That's all I have. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Now we're going to move on to the action items, and Mr. Lang, please introduce the first item.
Yes, 1 second while I pull up the presentation. Okay, great. Today, the BRTB is being asked to consider Resolution 25-29. This resolution involves a request from the Maryland Department of Transportation, Maryland Transit Administration to amend the fiscal year 2025 to 2028 tip for 5 projects. We have Miss Jamie Richardson, who's going to provide information on the proposed action. I'm going to turn it over to Jamie.
Thanks, Todd. Good morning, everyone. Here to present a few amendments. Next slide. So just as a reminder, when MTA obligates a grant, we have to have the funds in that year of obligation. So we're taking actions necessary to obligate a number of grants. Next slide. First one's related to bus and paratransit vehicle overhaul and replacements. So we always replace our bus and paratransit vehicles. With this amendment, we're obligating CMAQ funds with pre-award authority, and this amendment will obligate $44.85 million of CMAQ funds, and then there's a $7.5 million in state match. Next slide. Next amendment is for the zero emission infrastructure and rolling stock. So this is a purchase of battery electric buses and the related infrastructure for those buses. And this project reduces greenhouse gas emissions and grows the economy. And this amendment obligates $393,000 in CMAQ funding as well, $18.8 million in carbon reduction funds, and then there is a $3.3 million in state funding match. Next slide. Then urban transit systems, operating assistance. So this funding supports transit operations in Harford County. And this amendment obligates $4.6 million in 5307 funding. And then there's a $4.6 million in local match funds for FY 2025. And this funding covers calendar year 2024 and 2025 operating assistant for this amendment. And then MARC facilities. So this project includes improvement and equipment for MARC maintenance facilities and improvements to the MARC stations. And this request also updates the project description and justification of the tip page to include some more detail. This supports MARC state of good repair and the customer experience. And so we're adding $28 million in 5337 funding and $7 million in state match to this tip page. Next slide. And then as mentioned before, the Francis Scott Key Bridge transit incentives. So this is a pilot program to support transit incentives for businesses and residents impacted by the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse. So this offers short-term cost-sharing incentives to employers who participate in the transit pass subsidization. So this amendment obligates $1 million in CMAQ funds and a $250,000 state match. And I think that's the last of my amendments. Yeah. Any questions? Feel free to let me know, or there's my contact information.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. These tip amendments were recommended for approval, as was mentioned by the technical committee, and now we ask the BRTB to consider resolution 25-29.
Thank you. I'll now ask for a member to move for approval of the resolution, and can we get a second?
Trumbull County motions to approve the amendment.
Howard County seconds it.
All right, does any BRTB member have any questions or comments on the 5 amendments? Hearing none, it will now ask for if any member of the public has any questions, comments on the resolution, please indicate so in the chat box. Todd, is any member of the public asked to speak?
Mr. Chair, currently there is no member of the public requesting to speak in the chat box.
Okay, we'll proceed with the vote. Again, with your cameras on, when Todd reads your name, please indicate a yay or nay.
Anne Arundel County,
Yay.
Baltimore City, Baltimore County,
Yay.
Carroll County,
Yay.
Harford County,
Yay.
Howard County,
Yay.
Queen Anne's County,
Yay.
MDOT.
Yay.
And Mr. Chair, we have an approved resolution. Were there any other members who joined in the meantime? Hearing none, we have an approved resolution. Thank you very much.
Right. Since the resolution is passed, let's move on to the informational items.
Okay, today, Mr. Chair, we are going to have a presentation from our consultant who worked on the post-pandemic trends project. Please wait 1 second while I make them eligible to present. Let's see. Very quickly is, let's see. Trying to see if David Roden is here.
David Roden's here, but I probably won't be the presenter either. Probably Adriano would be the best person.
Okay.
Yes, Adriano will be our presenter.
Got it. I will make Adriano a presenter. Just 1 second while I pull that up. Okay. Hopefully you can pull up the presentation at your convenience. Today we're doing a presentation again on the UPWP task, looking at post-pandemic trends for the Baltimore region. I'll turn it over to the project manager, Mr. David Roden from AECOM, who can introduce the rest of the team. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. David Roden, AECOM. We basically have provided an executive summary and 4 reports for more detail on all this material. So that will be available to you through your website. We have Kevin Pullis on the team, who was the survey consultant doing the employer and employee survey. David Roden and I led most of the home from home from work, work from home, I'm sorry, and the demographic and travel forecasting components of the study. Tony, Horst, and Adriano led the office and retail analysis and some of the policy levers that we're going to present today. So I'll turn it over to Tony or Adriano to make the presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. I'm going to start and then hand it off to Adriano. Adriano, are we presenting?
Oh,
Yep.
Can you see my screen?
I can see. So we're ready to go to the next slide. So just an overview of the presentation today. We'll give you a little bit of background on the study, touch briefly on some of the phase 1 findings because they inform what we did in the second phase of the work. Phase 1 was largely the survey and travel demand work that Dave just described. And then in phase 2, we'll talk a little bit more about the trends we're seeing in demographics and the real estate market and some of the policy levers that Baltimore and a few other really large cities have started using to adapt to the trends. So that's kind of the overview of where we are. As just mentioned, it was funded by the Unified Planning Work Program. As we get into this, we're going to focus on work from home, some of the changes in employment, and then changes in commercial real estate. As Dave mentioned, all of this work is detailed in a series of reports, and there's a link at the bottom of the slide that gives you the location of those reports. Again, two phases to the project, literature review and survey. That work then informed phase 2, what the impacts are and what the trends we're seeing. And then we did research into policy responses. Some of the key takeaways from this, the survey contacted over 1,600 employees. And what they found is at this point, only 46% are working fully on site. Most everyone is some variant of hybrid or remote work. The remote work was concentrated in fire tech professional services. Fire is a shorthand way of saying finance, insurance, and real estate, that cluster of occupations. Overall, this survey work predicted almost a 29% reduction in work trips. And not only a reduction, but a change in the pattern of travel. Mondays and Fridays showed lower travel demand as people extended their weekends. And, if this was applied and persisted, it would suggest that forecasts for the region might need to be adjusted going forward for the new trends as people think about the travel demand models for the region. Peak period travel and congestion are also expected to decline significantly. So the trends underscore really rethinking not only what infrastructure is needed, but maybe how it's used in light of some of the changing regional dynamics. And we'll touch again on that in a moment. The survey results are summarized here. There's a lot going on, so I'll just call out the chart on the top is pre-COVID for the county, and the chart on the bottom is post-COVID for the city. Overall, what we saw is a large drop in work from home for several clusters, largely clusters 1 and 3 and 4. In the next slide, it's a little bit easier to see it summarized. As you can see, the survey has a ton of detail on different groups. So please really encourage you to look at that report to really see how the different groups responded to the pandemic. But the next slide gives us kind of a nice summary of the kind of aggregate takeaways. Fully in-person work dropped from 64% to about 41%. Hybrid and remote work surged. Over this time, 4% joined the workforce and are having a very different introduction to work than most of us did. And this is really, I think, part of a long-term shift towards flexibility. And just that it's not, I guess I would say it's not done. It's an unfolding situation, one that we'll continue to kind of monitor. Phase 2, we focused on the hybrid work and what that means for real estate and for where people choose to live and work, and kind of the energy in the city, and some of the policy levers that are coming forward. And with that, I'm going to hand it to my partner, Adriano.
Thank you, Tony. So to start, we're just going to give a quick summary of the areas we analyzed in and around Baltimore. A focus of the analysis was the center of Baltimore, so area 15 here being the CBD, Central Business District or downtown, and 4 being Midtown. Apologies for the ordering of and numbering of these. They are following the CoStar submarket numbering. So we also wanted to look at other kinds of areas around Baltimore. So for example, we looked at BWI and Baltimore County, but also areas like Towson and Route 2 Corridor North, which I'm not sure if these names are very easy to understand, but we are following what the CoStar naming system is. So I hope the map helps a little bit see the areas we are looking at. And generally we did this just to get an overview of how different kinds of areas around Baltimore have weathered the pandemic and how they are doing now. Just as an overview of how a more detailed overview of the survey findings. Before the pandemic, we had the standard 5-day office schedule with strong weekday foot traffic, and this supported retail and transit in and around Baltimore. However, after the pandemic, hybrid and remote work has become widespread, and reduced occupancy is very visible in the data, especially in older offices in the CBD, in the downtown. And there still is a lot of uncertainty, both for employers and employees, about the future of remote work and how exactly it's going to work. So the impact of this is less foot traffic, less transit usage, and the higher vacancies have led to more sublease space available downtown, affecting prices. So we created this index that you can see here. This is for office workers, specifically the fire workers Tony mentioned, in order to create a baseline scenario for what the future of in-person work in Baltimore could mean. So this index shows the total amount of in-person hours worked for these kinds of workers in Baltimore City and in Baltimore County. As you can see, when the pandemic started, there was a sharp drop in-person work, followed by a slight and steady recovery. Just so you note, 2024 here isn't the real data value, or it's not a measured data value. It is what the in-person work would look like should all employee preferences from the survey become true. So if employees get what they want, you can see that there would be an even further drop from what we have now, where both employers and employees are trying to figure out what kind of setup they exactly want. However, you can also see that there's a stabilization in the trends. So right now we are definitely above 0.8 on this index, but it is important to have a baseline scenario to be able to compare what is going on around Baltimore. As a point of comparison, this is the same graphic for retail work. So retail work is much more difficult to be done remotely. So you see that there was a sharp drop in the pandemic, but it has already reached very close levels to pre-pandemic. It is important to note that if Baltimore can attract more people, so higher migration flows, or if more in-person work can happen for office workers, this is actually a conservative forecast because, of course, office workers in the downtown heavily stimulate retail. And therefore, even with this conservative baseline, it's looking quite good for Baltimore's retail sector. So as we mentioned before, a lot of these office workers have switched to hybrid work, which means commuting 2 to 3 days per week. And now Mondays and Fridays see lower office attendance, which also means lower transit ridership and less foot traffic. Overall, we see that more workers are relocating to suburbs or affordable areas, which can also mean out of state. And there is a relative fall in demand for traditional office spaces. However, we do see an increase in flexible working space demand. For example, Groove opened an 8,500 square foot space in 2024, and the International Workplace Group is adding 4 new offices across Maryland. This not only lowers overhead for companies, but it also changes the way in which employees interact. It means it creates new networking opportunities as you sit next to people from different companies. And it is another example of the shift in work patterns in and around Baltimore. As Tony mentioned, the work from home projections that we have show a large increase in the desire to work from home. And if employees get exactly what they want based on their current preferences, by 2029, we only expect 73% of workers to be in office or at least part-time. And this is especially pronounced in the CBD, as the fire workers are some of the groups that want remote work the most. Therefore, hybrid work is here to stay. And this is also shown in the increased demand for flexible space solutions like the hybrid co-working offices. For the office market, this has led to higher vacancies. However, it has also increased the demand for smaller and more adaptable spaces, something I'll touch on later. And also a lot of older buildings are increasingly being repurposed or converted to residential. This shift creates new challenges because the infrastructure needed to support an office area is different than a mixed use area. If you think of families moving into an area made for office workers, they have the desire for schools, parks, and other services that somebody who's there 9 to 5 maybe didn't value as much. Touching on the migration, you can see that this is IRS data from the mid-pandemic, by the way, just to show as an example. You can see that Baltimore City has been hit hardest by net outflows. So this is the number of people moving in or out of each area. And partially, some of these people have gone to other states. Texas and North Carolina stood out, and these people probably being given the opportunity to work remotely looked for either more space or different amenities or just lower costs of living. But you can also see that some other areas, such as Carroll and Hartford, have actually increased their population at the same time. And it shows that not everyone leaving the center of Baltimore is leaving the state as a whole, but they are choosing to be further out, as either they need to be in the office fewer days per week, or they are looking for other things, such as more space to live in. And just to drive the point home, this graph, the only thing that matters here, or not that matters, but the only thing I want to point out here is the walk rates by area. So this graphic shows the change in daily walk trips for each zone listed here. And you can see that downtown has been hit the hardest by COVID. The drop has been much sharper when COVID started, and the recovery has been quite, it has been more difficult for the area to recover to its pre-pandemic levels. So why is the CBD important, and why are we focusing on it so much? It's the city's anchor. A lot of economic and civic activity is concentrated there, especially for fire employees, so finance, insurance, and real estate, office employees. It shapes the broader trends and market perceptions for the area. It's central to jobs, tourism, and public life. It's a visible symbol of the post-COVID recovery of the greater Baltimore area. And conditions in the downtown also drive reinvestment and policy shifts in the greater area. So the upcoming slides now will show how surrounding areas in a nutshell have done compared to central Baltimore in the same time. They've shown clear signs of recovery since the pandemic when we look at retail and office data, while central Baltimore is regaining its footing, as you saw proxied by the walk trips, which are a good indicator of how much economic activity is happening specifically in the downtown. Why is this important? Because stronger performance in the downtown can reinforce broader progress. They can not only help the recovery in the surrounding areas, but also boost it. And the downtown and the suburbs are still interconnected. People still do work, whether hybrid or full-time, in central Baltimore. And on top of that, people still want to go in and out of the city to make use of different kinds of amenities, whether that be shopping or museums or healthcare. And this slide shows how the trend that diverges across the markets. Apologies for the color scheme, but you start running out of colors when you have so many lines. The main thing that we wanted to point out here is that the non-downtown areas, the non-central Baltimore areas are showing a clear recovery trend. These are the retail vacancy rates per area, so the lower, the better. And you can see that over time, they've actually been steadily decreasing, showing strong market demand. Baltimore Midtown has also shown a strong trend because of its market diversity. It's not as heavily focused on office spaces, but you can see that the CBD and surrounding areas have been having more difficulties in reducing their vacancy rates. Just to be clear, this is the CBD line that you see here. So delving in a little bit deeper, we see that there was a sharp drop in walk trips when the pandemic started. And you can see that the amount of walkers downtown have not fully recovered. So while the vacancy rates are recovering well, either due to conversions or to being rented or sublet, the amount of people using these offices is not the same. For comparison, Midtown stabilized at between 5 to 8%, depending on where you're looking at for vacancy rates, and the Northeast dropped to 1% by the second quarter of 2024. And that's mostly due to strong tenant retention and there being a smaller pool of both available space and demand. So while CBD vacancy is improving, foot traffic is still a major issue, signaling changes in how people are working. Sublease space is up 114% versus pre-pandemic, which reflects a lot of uncertainty in long-term office demand. However, I did mention the conversions. Office to residential conversions are gaining traction, and One Calvert Plaza has been repurposed for mixed use, and that's a great example. And generally speaking, 3-star, meaning less central, often less modern buildings, this is a CoStar real estate term, have seen a decrease in vacancies due to conversions and also the use of hybrid workspaces, as I mentioned earlier. But the more expensive and central 4- and 5-star properties have seen higher vacancies. However, none of this data or these forecasts account for any federal return to office mandates or other general company policies forcing people to return to the office. So it is something we need to track as time continues. The retail market, on the other hand, while you can see foot traffic has, this is the same drop in foot traffic for central Baltimore, while it still has higher vacancy rates than pre-pandemic, but overall the vacancy rate is lower than what it is for offices. I just want to preface for the next slide slide that you will see a mall graph that looks very strange, and that's because there are 2 malls in the downtown. But overall, we see that neighborhood center stores, so small stores, have been thriving, especially with the new conversions seen in the downtown. But larger format spaces have been having issues filling. Of course, the mall graph, there's two buildings, so take it with a grain of salt. But otherwise, we also see that the CBD weekdays are improving in terms of foot traffic, specifically between Tuesdays and Thursdays, which are the days hybrid workers come in, reinforcing why the office workers are so important. But yes, it is still below pre-pandemic levels. However, CBD retail rents are up 3.5% year on year. So we see that neighborhood center, the small store demand is strong enough to even drive prices up, and the larger stores are lagging behind. All this to say, what our main findings and analysis was about. There are a lot of other areas we cover, and there's a lot of other data in the report, so I suggest looking at it. However, what are the strengths that Baltimore currently has? Well, one of the main strengths of Baltimore is its transit. One of EPA's tools shows that between 90 and 100% of census block employment is within a half mile of a rail or transit station. And it also shows that between 30 and 50% of Baltimore's downtown population has access to jobs within a 45-minute ride. This is not only important for jobs, but it's also important for the conversions I was talking about, because access to a job is also access to amenities. Stores, hospitals, museums, schools, anything like that, which is a great strength in attracting and retaining both companies and people. Another strength for Baltimore is government relocation. Maryland is actively relocating state employees to the downtown as part of a strategic initiative to revitalize the CBD and address these high office vacancy rates I was discussing. This involves moving employees from the State Center complex to modern office spaces downtown. The move was aimed at reducing office vacancies and stimulating activity in the CBD, and the initiative was supported by the Moore-Miller administration to reaffirm its active role in the revitalization. Of course, there could also be federal incentives, but for the moment, we only found evidence of Maryland ones. However, there is clear support, ongoing support for them to continue. And with that, I will hand it back to Tony for the policy levers.
Great. Thanks, Adriano. So here we transition and talk a little bit about the policies to kind of address these trends. I like to think a little bit about how they impact the foot traffic that Adriano was talking about. Those projections that he showed are really kind of a baseline projection, and the degree to which these policy levers are able to increase foot traffic, increase activity in the downtown, those are upside risks to that forecast and would adjust those lines upward and likely adjust those vacancy rates downward. So there's a variety of policy levers that cities are using: affordable housing, fiscal incentives, adaptive reuse, both of commercial buildings and also historic properties, and efforts to diversify downtowns are important ones. Leveraging transit is important, and efforts to improve the public's perception of safety also play a role. And I'd like to say that these are overlapping initiatives. Each one is useful and has the intention of improving the downtown environment, but they interact, and when 2 or 3 are used at once, there's much more impact than just one alone. Just touching on fiscal incentives, Baltimore is doing a lot of these things, really has a portfolio of policy levers right now, or policies in its portfolio. Fiscal incentives, helping to improve the storefront and facade, making the downtown and locations attractive, making the perception of the experience positive, and to some degree improving that perception of public safety, making housing affordable. Overall, Baltimore is an affordable location within the region, but really improving and targeting affordable initiatives, encouraging the conversion of some buildings into residential units. And as Adriano mentioned, that has both the impact of increasing foot traffic in the downtown, but with that, it means that people are going to be using transit differently as they live in the city rather than use it to go back and forth between the suburbs and city. So it's more of a circulation within the city for many of its amenities. And then also, as people move to the city, they need different amenities, parks, recreation, schools, all those things that typically are with the household's residents. And when people are commuting, those things were more out in the suburbs. As they come and live and become city dwellers, maybe there's an expansion of those services and amenities needed. Adaptive reuse and redevelopment of commercial buildings and historical properties. That's so important given Baltimore's distinct personality and the history that's here that makes the place distinctive, really one of its advantages. Next slide. And then supporting transportation options. Going back to the thought about infrastructure, we may be using it in a different way, different timing, different patterns. So really understanding this ongoing evolution of how people are using the city is important for the transit system. Diversification, increasing the variety of activities that happen downtown. We talked a little bit about fire and the professional occupations being the most footloose or the most easily translated to remote. There's a strong emphasis here on entrepreneurship, innovation, particularly if you're working in a lab or working in an environment, sort of a testing environment, that's harder to do remote. So it both requires an in-person presence, but also it creates opportunities for new industries to be created or expanded here, supporting that diversification. And then finally, public safety, and that no initiative can really thrive if people don't feel safe and want to be in a place. So other cities are facing the same issues. San Francisco has been focusing on fiscal incentives and adaptive reuse across the board. Taxpayers have voted for initiatives to fund conversions and to accelerate that. One of the challenges as San Francisco is facing, or two challenges really, are the costs. It's a much more high cost environment, making it harder to convert buildings and adapt real estate than other places. The downtown was largely built out. And then also there's challenges with perceptions of public safety in some areas of the downtown. So that has slowed the response in San Francisco relative to some other cities. Detroit, affordable housing, a couple things going here. One we called out is an incentive program that offers $10,000 in select areas to convert the second floor of a commercial space into affordable housing. The key thing here I wanted to call out is that this was a program that initially started as a pilot by a nonprofit. And so, it's not all on, it calls out that, these solutions are not all on government to provide, but there's partnerships with the private developers, but also ideas in many cities coming from the nonprofit sector. And they're proving to be important partners in much of this. Economic diversification in Detroit, variety of incentives to bring people downtown. Probably the most notable is the 2024 effort. Ford purchased an unused train station, a very iconic building, and has transformed it into an innovation hub. It's the place where they're working on their EVs and autonomous vehicles. So far, 1,000 people employees have been relocated to the hub, and the intention is eventually for 5,000 to be there. But that's reactivating that part of the Detroit downtown and is helping to spread, support smaller businesses in the vicinity. New York, again, a strong emphasis on affordable housing, efforts at repurposing some of the underutilized commercial spaces, and their efforts at diversification take a little bit of a different track. Here, it's more about bringing underrepresented populations into the digital industries, introducing them, making it easier for people to participate in this this growing and evolving industry in New York. Next slide. And then finally, Seattle, directly attacking public safety. They've passed laws that strengthen enforcement of drug-related activities, as well as outdoor, focusing on people that are unhoused and needing help. But partnered with that enforcement, they've also added research, outreach, education, and treatment. So it's a comprehensive approach to addressing public safety in the city. So each city it's kind of taken a different portfolio of policy levers as it fits for their local situation. Baltimore has probably one of the widest range of policy levers that we saw when we scanned the cities. Overall, the downtowns are responding, but it's a continual rethink kind of how space and services are going to work. Particularly if you have fewer commuters, you're going to have less foot traffic. The adaptive reuse of buildings, as well as affordability, both work to attract people downtown. That's an upside risk for foot traffic. It helps to activate those areas. It raises those forecasts we saw, but it also carries with it demand for different amenities than were provided before. So people are using the city and in different ways, and we're still learning how that's going to be. And then finally, I'm just going to kind of jump to the bottom here. This is an ongoing trend. We've talked as a planning community about the importance of downtowns and the evolution of downtowns multiple times. There was revitalization in the 50s, the 80s. There was a lot of tracking of the health of downtowns between 2020 and 2000 and 2020. This is kind of part of an ongoing conversation. Definitely people are using cities in different ways, but similar incentives, a lot of upside risk, just understanding how to revitalize and reshape the city for how people want to use it today when there's remote work and people are more flexible in how they're working. So it's an ongoing story. It's not done, and it'll be a very interesting trend to continue to monitor. I'll just say thank you for listening and the opportunity to share the work. It was a really interesting project for all of us. We really loved working on this.
Thank you.
I just wanted to thank the AECOM team, including all of their partners, all the research that was done. Again, we're posting these reports on our website. They're going to be under the area of the Cooperative Forecasting Group, as this was initiated through a request of the Cooperative Forecasting Group. Again, we have the survey report up already, and we're going to be posting the other reports here in the next couple of days along with this presentation. So right now, we'll turn it back to the chair and just see if there's any questions immediately. But again, we can always do follow-up once you have a chance to go through all the different data.
Hearing no questions.
I've got a question actually. Can you just tell us what percent of the labor market the fire sector represents, or the fire grouping or whatever?
I don't have that statistic in front of me right now, but I can get back to you with it. We definitely have that in the survey results.
Okay.
And it will be available in the full report as well.
Thank you.
We have a hand up from our Maryland Department of Planning rep, Behoy.
Yes, thank you for the interesting presentation. And I know that your research is focusing on the CBD, in Baltimore City, Baltimore downtown area. I'm wondering, based on your survey, have you seen? I mean, based on your study, you mentioned that in the suburban area outside the CBD and Baltimore City and the suburban area, the recovery rate, office renting and the retail space renting has been recovered better. Is any distinguishing between small town, for instance, Westminster, Sykesville, and Bel Air, in those suburban counties, the differences between the small town and the suburban area? And for instance, in Howard County, suburban area and recovery better is understandable. But I'm wondering, the small town area has been any pay attention, or you have any ideas of it, of the impacts of the pandemic?
Unfortunately, the way the areas are grouped from data providers such as CoStar, which is a real estate tool, they group the smaller areas together into bigger blocks.
Bigger blocks, okay.
So we don't have that level of granularity, unfortunately.
Yeah, the survey, did you do the survey?
That was David's team.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we did surveys, and we have locations for the various responses of both residential locations and office locations for the respondents and employees and the employers. So there is that data, and there is outward migration generally of both residential and office locations observed in the survey. So that was what we saw as well.
But anyhow, okay, I know. Yeah, I was just interested to see, the differences between the town centers and Main Street areas and suburban areas. Any distinguishing? Anyhow, thank you.
Great. Well, Mr. Chair, seeing no more questions, thank you again to the team, and we will ask to move on to the next agenda item, please.
Yes, we'll move on now to Cheryl Ladonna of MDOT SHA, and she will discuss the ongoing survey for administering local programs.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm Cheryl Adada, Assistant Division Chief in the Office of Planning and Preliminary Engineering, and I oversee a number of the local programs that includes transportation alternatives, recreational trails, safe routes to school, earmarks, the carbon reduction program, and Protect. The other LPA program, major LPA program, is the local Birch program. And if you go to the next slide, I guess it was probably 2 weeks ago now that Administrator Will Pines and Deputy Chief Engineer Ray Morvik were presenting at the latest SEAM meeting about the LPA programs and kind of where they stand, and more importantly, what feedback the locals in attendance would like to share with him about how the program runs, what they see as the largest hurdles, and what recommendations they might have for us to tackle. Next slide. The presentation included kind of an open space discussion, and then they had different boards set up for the grant programs, the bridge program, design innovation, access permits, customer service, for everyone to go up and kind of write the different things that they wanted to share and see addressed. And on this slide, you can see the different themes that came out from that presentation, and kind of how they broke out in the different categories that, you know, we created, including standards, process, speed, collaboration, training, and resources, to give you an idea of what some of the takeaways were. And some of these kind of cross over multiple themes, but they really did kind of come down to a very tight set of concerns that the locals were looking for us to address. The first of those being that our design review process takes too long, is too complicated, and requires too many back and forth submissions and comments. The second was the use of local standards versus SHA standards, and whether that was going to be allowed by SHA, and whether it's allowed by federal highway, and how to move forward with allowing us to use it or allowing locals to use it if it is indeed something that is permitted. A third was allowing the use of innovative techniques and innovative treatments and innovative procurement methods in order to make projects move more quickly. There was certainly requests around updating our manuals. We are aware our LPA manual was drafted in 2016. And while a lot of the content remains active and in place and in line with the current regulations, other things have changed, specific processes have changed. So that is something that has been requested repeatedly. And then basically every step in our process takes too long, and that includes getting authorization for notice to advertise from federal highway. Next slide. So one of the things that we wanted to share today is what we are doing right now to address some of these things. And that to let you know that we have heard these complaints. We want to continue to hear what we can do better and what the locals can do better to make this process more successful. We have reestablished the LPA Council. Right now it is an internal council made up of representatives from all the different offices, not just the LPA programs, but all of the different steps in the process, to bring us together to work on some of these other items that are here on the list. At some point, as we get these top priority actions taken care of, we do hope to then invite locals to be a part of the council for perhaps biannual meetings or quarterly meetings. We have added employee and consultant resources, employee resources for federal aid, programming to help move the federal authorization process and reimbursement process more quickly, as well as consultant resources on the grant side and staff resources in some cases to help with project management. One of the things we did get feedback on is the use of our consultant contract authority. Up to this point, those contracts within the district and Office of Structures and a number of the other offices were difficult to access. So we are going to have in the coming month a number of contracts come online specifically for use with local programming. So we hope to be able to have these resources available to those locals that are looking for design support and to avoid having to go through what can be a long and cumbersome A&E procurement process. So that is something, as I said, that we are starting to ramp up right now and hope to have that capability on our contracts next month. There is an effort underway to create an improved IT solution, both for internal processes and for external transparency, and to enable locals to know where the process is, the timelines, and kind of where things stand. Is it at a certain milestone with the local? Is it a milestone that's waiting on SHA? And of course, we are really working hard in the LPA Council to review and tighten and improve our processes and procedures. We have heard everything that has been shared with us. We know that it's frustrating. We also get frustrated with some of our internal processes, and we are really looking to update the process and use more opportunities for technology to support us, to make things move more quickly and to be more transparent in our program management. Last piece, we are encouraging you to please take the opportunity, if you haven't done so, to take the SHA local program survey. It's quick, It's maybe 10 questions. Most of them are multiple choice about your experiences with our local programs, primarily local bridge, transportation alternatives, and recreational trails. We want to hear your honest feedback because we are really taking this time to put the effort in specifically to improve the LPA program. This is a high priority for the administration. And while we are aware of many of the difficult points in the process, the more feedback we can get to hear where those pain points are for the locals, the more successful we will be in improving the programs. And with that, I am happy to answer any questions or take any thoughts and feedback while I'm here.
All sounds quiet. Thank you, Cheryl.
My pleasure. Anytime. And thank you for having me.
Great. Now we'll move on to the recommendations of the nominating committee. The nominating committee surveyed BRTB members for interest in how we're putting forward the proposed slate of Howard County for the chair and Queen Anne's County for the vice chair for officers for FY26. Nominations will be accepted and the vote for officers will take place at the June BRTB meeting. Now we'll move on to any other business. If there is any other business that come before the BRT board.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have Miss Amanda Hinn from MDOT who'd like to speak about an upcoming ZVIC survey. Amanda, we have also made you co-host in case you want to share your screen. If not, please present to the BRTB. Thank you.
Thanks, Todd. Let me try to share my screen.
Oops, microphone is pretty quiet, Amanda, if you could speak up.
All right, let me try this again.
Okay, we can hear you now.
Now it's always the challenge of trying to share my screen. I haven't done this in Zoom in a while. Okay, I might just have to go without slides and I can always share them with you all afterwards. But thanks for allowing me an opportunity to just sort of talk about the zero emission vehicle infrastructure plan. So just to backtrack real quick, I am Amanda Hinn, as Todd said, I'm at the Secretary's Office of MDOT as the Zero Emissions Vehicle Infrastructure Program Manager. And as some of you may be aware, MDOT is currently developing a zero emission vehicle infrastructure plan, also known as the ZVIP. And this is to strategize the deployment of infrastructure to support the growth of zero emission vehicles under our state's climate and regulatory goals. This also follows the governor's climate executive order, which was issued last year that called for MDOT to develop this plan. So the intent of ZVIP is to identify suitability for corridor and community infrastructure and examine a multi-state strategy, multi-state agency strategy to support this deployment alongside local and private partnerships. So the plan will also include some scenarios analysis to inform the state's response to federal funding and policy uncertainty in light of the administration change. And this will also include some recent impending news regarding the Advanced Clean Cars 2 regulation. So this plan is expected to be published in September this year, and we also hope to make some infrastructure planning tools available for public and local government use that I'd be happy to share with you all when that's available. So at the expense of having another survey shared with you all, we do have a survey out now. It's been out for about a month and it closes on June 13th. This may already be on your radar. It takes approximately 10 minutes to complete, and the audience are Maryland residents, whether they are EV drivers or not, fleet owners, operators, and EV industry professionals. I will share the link in the chat momentarily, and apologies for not having the slides working. Yeah, we would just like to hear from as many Marylanders as possible, so it'd be really great if you could share the survey widely with your networks. And I'll also drop my email in the chat so that you can reach out with any questions. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Amanda. Now, hearing no questions, I'll call for a vote to close this meeting. All in favor, say yay. Yay.
Yay.
Yay.
Yay.
Good. Our next meeting will be virtual on Tuesday, June the 24th, and look forward to seeing everybody then.
Thank you very much, everyone.
All right. Thank you.